In the vast history of blues and popular music, few artists have ever mastered the power of a single note the way Riley B. King did. The world would come to know him simply as B.B. King, a man whose guitar did not merely accompany his voice, but spoke with it, answered it, and sometimes even wept for it. From dusty Mississippi cotton fields to the grandest stages on earth, B.B. King carried the blues like a heartbeat, steady and eternal. His guitar, lovingly named Lucille, became more than an instrument. It became a character, a companion, and a witness to a life spent turning hardship into music. This is a story of a man who turned pain into melody, struggle into rhythm, and a lifetime of performance into legend. The story of B.B. King begins in the Mississippi Delta, where music and hardship lived side by side. Born Riley B. King on September 16, 1925, near Edabena, Mississippi, he grew up in a world of cotton fields, church hymns, and close-knit communities. Life was difficult, shaped by sharecropping and long days of labor, but the Delta was rich in sound. Gospel music filled the churches, work songs echoed across the fields, and the blues quietly told the stories of everyday life. Raised largely by his grandmother after his parents separated, Riley found comfort in music from an early age. He sang in church and began teaching himself guitar as a teenager. After long days picking cotton, he would spend evenings practicing, learning by ear and by feel. The guitar quickly became his voice, an instrument through which he could express both struggle and hope. Local musicians and traveling performers influenced him deeply. He listened closely to early blues players and absorbed their style, especially the expressive phrasing and emotional bends that would later define his own sound. Even before fame, he was shaping a musical identity rooted in feeling rather than flash. As a young man, Riley left the Delta for Memphis, Tennessee, drawn by its growing music scene. Memphis offered opportunity, street performances, small clubs, and eventually a job at radio station WDIA. There, he earned the nickname Blues Boy, later shortened to BB. The name would follow him for the rest of his life. Though his career was only beginning, the foundation was already set. The Delta's struggles, its music, and its spirit will remain with him forever. Every note B.B. King played in later years carried echoes of those early days, of cotton fields, church songs, and a young man discovering that music could tell his story when nothing else could. As B.B. King's reputation began to grow in the late 1940s, he spent much of his time performing across small towns in the American South. The venues were modest, dance halls, juke joints, and makeshift stages where crowds gathered to forget their troubles for a night. King played wherever he could, carrying his guitar from place to place, building a name through persistence and passion. The road was tough, but every performance sharpened his style and strengthened his connection to the blues. One winter night in 1949, while performing at a dance in Twist, Arkansas, a moment occurred that would become part of music legend. The venue was heated by a kerosene barrel placed in the center of the room. During the dance, a fight broke out between two men. In the chaos, the heater was knocked over, and the building quickly caught fire. Flames spread fast, and the crowd rushed outside. King escaped safely, but once outside, he realized something was missing: his guitar. Without hesitation, he ran back into the burning building to retrieve it. The decision was dangerous, even reckless, but to him, the guitar was more than an object. It was his livelihood, his voice, and his future. He managed to make it out with the instrument just before the structure collapsed. Later, he learned that the fight had started over a woman named Lucille. The story stayed with him. From that day on, he named his guitars Lucille as a reminder of the night he nearly lost his life and of the lessons learned. He often joked about it on stage, telling audiences that Lucille reminded him never to fight over a woman and never to run into a burning building again. Yet behind the humor was a deeper truth. The guitar and the musician were inseparable. As his career progressed, Lucille became his signature. Unlike many blues guitarists, B.B. King favored a smooth, singing tone rather than aggressive distortion. He chose guitars that allowed him to sustain notes and shape them with vibrato, making each phrase feel like part of a conversation. Over time, Lucille evolved into a symbol of his artistry, a sleek, elegant guitar that reflected his refined style. Audiences came to expect Lucille's presence on stage. When B.B. King walked out, guitar in hand. It was as if two performers had arrived. The man and the instrument. He would speak to it, play to it, and sometimes even pause as if listening for its reply. By the early 1950s, B.B. King had found his rhythm, not just in music, but in motion. He became known as one of the hardest working performers in the business, traveling constantly from town to town across the American South. Night after night, he stepped onto stages in clubs, theaters, and juke joints, sometimes performing more than 300 shows in a single year. The road was exhausting, the pay wasn't always steady, and the conditions could be rough, but B.B. King kept moving forward. For him, the stage was home, traveling in buses and cars packed with band equipment. He built a loyal following through live performances. Audiences didn't just hear his music. They felt it. When B.B. King sang, his voice carried warmth and honesty. When he played Lucille, every note seemed to speak. His guitar style stood apart from many of his peers. Instead of fast, crowded runs, he chose space and clarity, bending notes slowly and letting them linger. Each phrase sounded like a conversation, as if the guitar were answering his voice. During these years, he began releasing records that expanded his reach. Songs like 3 O'Clock Blues gave him his first major hit on the rhythm and blues charts, followed by favorites such as You Know I Love You and Every Day I Have the Blues. His popularity grew steadily, and with it came bigger crowds and better venues. Still, he never abandoned the road. Touring remained the heart of his career, the place where he connected most deeply with listeners. Life on tour also shaped his stage presence. B.B. King developed a style that was confident yet relaxed. He would stand with Lucille, smile at the audience, and let the music unfold naturally. Between songs, he talked to the crowd, telling stories, sharing humor, and making each performance feel personal. Fans didn't just come to hear him play. They came to spend an evening with him. The long miles and countless performances refined his sound and strengthened his reputation. By the late 1950s and into the 1960s, B.B. King was no longer just a regional blues artist. He was becoming a national figure, respected by fellow musicians and beloved by audiences. Every city he visited added another chapter to his story, another note to his growing legacy. By the late 1960s, the blues was finding new audiences, and B.B. King stood at the center of its revival. Younger listeners, especially in rock and soul circles, began discovering the depth and emotion of traditional blues music. Artists who had grown up listening to King now invited him onto bigger stages, introducing him to crowds far beyond the juke joints and theaters where he had built his name. What followed was a new chapter, one where B.B. King's sound crossed generations and borders. A defining moment came with the release of Live at the Regal in 1965. Recorded in Chicago, the album captured the energy of the performances and the deep connection he had with audiences. It showcased not only his guitar mastery, but also his storytelling and stage presence. Musicians across genres studied the record, calling it one of the greatest live blues albums ever made. For many listeners, it was their first true introduction to B.B. King's power as a performer. Then in 1969 came the song that would bring him worldwide recognition, The Thrill Is Gone. With its smooth orchestration and haunting guitar lines, the track reached beyond traditional blues audiences and into mainstream radio. It became his signature hit, earning awards and cementing his place in music history. Suddenly, B.B. King wasn't just a blues legend. He was a global artist. As the 1970s and 80s unfolded, he performed on international stages and collaborated with some of the biggest names in music. From Eric Clapton to the Rolling Stones, and later U2, artists from rock and pop sought to share the stage with him. Despite these collaborations, B.B. King never abandoned the essence of blues. He carried it with him into every performance, introducing it to audiences who might never have encountered it otherwise. His concerts grew larger, but his approach remained the same. With Lucille in hand, he stepped onto stages with calm confidence, letting the music speak first. Whether in a small theater or a massive arena, he created an atmosphere that felt intimate and genuine. The blues, once rooted in the Mississippi Delta, now echoed across the world. If the road built B.B. King's career, the stage defined his legend. By the time he reached the later decades of his life, he had become known not just as a great blues musician, but as one of the most beloved live performers in the world. Whether in a small theater or a packed arena, B.B. King stepped onto the stage with warmth, confidence, and a quiet authority that needed no introduction. In his earlier years, he stood tall under the lights, Lucille hanging from his shoulder as he delivered sharp, expressive solos. As time went on, he often performed seated, but the energy never faded. The moment he touched the strings, the room changed. He didn't rely on speed or flashy tricks. Instead, he let each note breathe, bending and holding tones until they seemed to speak directly to the audience. His signature vibrato, gentle yet powerful, became instantly recognizable. What made a B.B. King concert unforgettable wasn't just the music, it was a connection. Between songs, he spoke to the crowd like old friends. He told stories from the road, shared lessons from life, and sprinkled humor throughout the night. Audiences laughed with him, listened closely, and then fell silent as Lucille began to sing again. The call and response between his voice and guitar felt almost like a conversation unfolding in real time. He often introduced his band with pride, giving each musician a moment to shine. For B.B. King, the blues was never a solo journey. It was a shared experience. Every performance felt personal, even in the largest venues. Fans left his shows feeling as though they had spent an evening not just watching a legend, but sitting with him, hearing his stories, and feeling his music. Even in his 70s and 80s, he continued touring extensively. While many artists slowed down, B.B. King remained devoted to the stage. Music was not simply his profession. It was his purpose. Night after night, city after city, he carried the blues forward, proving that its spirit only deepened with time. As the years passed, B.B. King's influence reached far beyond the stages he stood on and the records he released. He became known not only as a performer, but as a guiding force for generations of musicians. Guitarists across blues, rock, soul, and even jazz studied his style. The way he bent notes, used silence, and let emotion shape every phrase. His playing proved that technical speed mattered less than feeling. One note, played with honesty, could say more than 100 played without it. Artists such as Eric Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan, and many others openly credited B.B. King as a major inspiration. Some performed alongside him. Others learned by listening to his recordings again and again. Through these connections, his sound traveled into new genres and new eras. Even musicians who had never met him carried elements of his phrasing and tone in their own work. Recognition followed throughout his later life. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, received multiple Grammy Awards, and was honored with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Yet despite these achievements, he remained humble and deeply connected to his roots. He spoke often about the Mississippi Delta, about hard work, and about the power of music to bring people together. Fame never erased a memory of where he began. B.B. King also played a key role in keeping the blues alive for future generations. At a time when musical trends constantly shifted, he remained a steady presence, reminding audiences of the genre's importance and emotional depth. Through collaborations with younger artists and continued touring well into his later years, he ensured that the blues would never be forgotten. Each performance was both a celebration of the past and a bridge to the future. When B.B. King passed away in 2015, tributes poured in from around the world. Musicians, fans, and leaders alike recognized the impact he had made, not just on music, but on culture. His recordings continue to inspire, his performances continue to be studied, and the sound of Lucille still echoes in countless songs today. Interesting trivias. B.B. King's real name was Riley B. King, and the BB stood for Blues Boy, a nickname he earned while working at Memphis radio station WDA. He named all his guitars Lucille. Inspired by the night, he ran into a burning building to save his instrument after a fight broke out over a woman named Lucille. Unlike many guitarists, B.B. King rarely played chords during solos. He focused on single-note lines and expressive bends that became his signature sound. His famous song, "The Thrill Is Gone," became his biggest crossover hit and introduced him to mainstream global audiences in 1969. B.B. King sometimes performed more than 300 shows in a single year, earning a reputation as one of the hardest-working musicians in the industry. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987 and received numerous Grammy Awards throughout his career. In 2006, he was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom, one of the highest civilian honors in the United States. Despite worldwide fame, he often said that his musical roots and inspiration always came from the Mississippi Delta. Many legendary guitarists, including Eric Clapton and Stevie Ray Vaughan, considered him one of their greatest influences. Even in his later years, B.B. King continued touring extensively, believing that performing live was the best way to keep the blues alive. B.B. King may have left this world on May 14, 2015, but his music continues to live and breathe. From the cotton fields of the Mississippi Delta to the grandest stages across the globe, he carried the blues in every note, every bend of the string, and every soulful phrase. Lucille, his faithful companion, was more than a guitar. It was a voice, a partner, and a symbol of his lifetime devotion to music. His influence stretches far beyond the blues, shaping generations of musicians who continue to draw inspiration from his phrasing, his tone, and his undeniable feeling. King showed the world that the blues is more than a genre. It is a story, a conversation, and a way of turning hardship into beauty. When the lights dim and the music fades, the echo of B.B. King's guitar still lingers. Every note he played reminds us that emotion can transcend words, that a single string can carry a lifetime of stories, and that the blues will never die as long as someone listens and feels. B.B. King was, and always will be, the king of the blues. His voice is guitar, and his heart continue to sing, timeless and eternal.